wonderful. And it's a pleasure. He's now on the committee and he's been a wonderful help to us all here and an inspiration. Would you welcome Stuart? Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Reverend Bill. How is everyone today? Well, I'm grateful to be giving the talk today, and when Reverend Bill contacted me and invited me to give the talk, he asked me, what are you going to speak on? And he mentioned that the power of the month is elimination, also known as release. And oddly, you know, your mind just makes connections. I remembered this equation from a biology class I did in high school. So it's input equals output plus growth. So obviously the output aspect reminded me of elimination or release. So obviously if you're talking about a biological entity, it's input might be sunlight for a plant or food for us. Output, I don't want to go too specific what output might be, but growth is physical growth. But I've repurposed the equation so that I'm looking at input as life experience, output as elimination or releasing, as in releasing attachments, and growth as in spiritual growth. So I'm really talking about this journey we're on, incarnated in a physical body. Okay, so I just want to touch on 12 pounds. Oops, I better switch that on if I want to use it. So when Reverend Bill told me about the power of the month is elimination, what he's referring to there is that these powers here, so let's see, so Unity co-founded Unity with his wife Myrtle Fillmore. Charles Fillmore created the 12 powers system and detailed it in his book, The 12 Powers of Man, published in 1930. It's almost a 100-year-old book now. Fillmore believed that each of us received 12 God-given powers and that we could create the life we wanted using these powers. So this is a powerful idea. We're creating our own experience collectively and individually. So it's worth investigating these 12 powers. If you want, after the service, they're up there on the board there, you can see the colours. Each power is associated with a month. So the month of November has elimination, and each power has a colour, an apostle, and an affirmation associated with it. So if you're interested, you can see them in more detail down there. Okay, so along this journey of life, we can utilise these 12 powers. And this is a fundamental unity principle regarding the creation of our reality. So I'll go specifically onto the power of the month. It's also known as release. So release is the ability to let go. And its associated affirmation is, I release anything and everything that no longer serves my unfolding good. You can see the month there is November, and the location of the body is abdomen. So you can see why I thought of the biological equation. I might ask you to say the affirmation with me if you don't mind. So the affirmation is, I release anything and everything that no longer serves my unfolding good. Can we say it with me one more time? I release anything and everything that no longer serves my unfolding good. So one of the principles in unity is that we speak these words out aloud to manifest the sort of reality we're after. So along the journey of life, things happen, and if we're choosing love, we're choosing unity. And if we're choosing hate or unforgiveness, and I'm even talking about unforgiveness of the self, if I'm holding on to something from the past, something I did wrong, some way I got hurt, then as long as I'm doing that, I'm going down a path of separation. So I'll just say that again. If we're choosing love, we're choosing unity. But if we're holding on and not releasing, if we're holding on to hateful thoughts, even irritations, unforgiveness, even of yourself, That's a path of separation. And I don't say that for any point of judgment, because I have these feelings too. I just try not to hold on to them. Certainly not for a decade or 20 years or 30 years or what, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we're all facing battles and struggles. But what is this experience we're having? What are we doing here? Now, I'm sure you've heard this before. I really like this. We're having a human experience. We're a spirit having a human experience. So we do have a physical body at the moment, but what we actually are is a spirit. Now, about things happening through life, I have to sing at an outdoor musical festival after this gig.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and so the rain was not particularly reassuring, but I'm trying to be zen about it, and I'm being serious here. I'm trying to release my attachments to it. So if it's dry enough, we'll still perform, but if it's not, it'll be cancelled. And so I'm already processing that right now during the service, trying to release attachments to that. Another thing quickly on this this spirits thing, I used to have the Jehovah's Witnesses come to my door, and I'd always talk to them. In fact, I got so close to some of them that I gave them my phone number. They used to ring and say, "We're going to come round." And I'd have a couple of chairs out the front, and we'd talk about all kinds of things, all kinds of spiritual things, which I love to speak about. One time my wife said to me, "You're going easy on them, aren't you, out there? You're taking it easy, right?" And I said to her, "Well, they're coming to me to talk about, I'm not knocking on their door. If they want to come here and talk about spiritual things, I will." And I wasn't being combative about it. I was just talking. So the reason I bring this up is because it relates to what I was just saying. One time they said to me, "We're not, as Jehovah's Witnesses, we're not permitted to talk to spirits or communicate with spirits." And my answer was, "You're talking to a spirit right now." I just happen to be in a body. So that's how I view myself.
You get rid of them?
Oh no, well, eventually, but not because I didn't tell them to leave. I think they got tired of me. Okay, truth be told. So theoretical physicists talk about and postulate: do we live in a simulation? And I would assert that anyone who believes they're a spirit pretty much already realizes they live in a simulation, because once you leave, then we leave that simulation. So what I'm talking about here is Jesus, or uncomfortable with Father. I kind of like Father, Mother, God, or Divine Mind. So Jesus talked, but also being the Father being greater than He is. I couldn't get my head around that for a long time. Another thing that happened was Apostle Philip, somewhat impatiently, said to Jesus, "Look, just show us the Father." Jesus said, "I've been with you so many years, and you still don't recognise who I am and who you are." Yeah, I'll touch on that a bit later. That's an interesting point. So just on the journey, this is an Eric Butterworth quote: "Things may happen around you, and things may happen to you, but the only thing that matters are the things that happen in you." It's a very beautiful, powerful quote. So things may happen around you, things may happen to you, but the only thing that matters are the things that happen in you. So on releasing attachments, letting go of our attachments to an outcome is freeing. It helps us be more present in the now moment, more childlike. With the doing, the being, I'm talking about the act itself, being present, rather than focusing on what might come in the future. And at first, when I was younger, I thought that was a really irresponsible perspective. Don't you care about what's going to happen? But then as I got older, I realised there's a wisdom in releasing attachments and just letting things flow. So here's a Charles Fillmore quote: "We must learn to let go, to give up, to make room for the things we have prayed for and desired." So let's read that again quickly. We must learn to let go, to give up, to make room for the things we have prayed for and desired. And also got a quote from Jesus along similar lines: "Therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they?" So also, once again, when I was younger, I thought, well, doesn't he understand that we need these things when we're in a body? We need food, we need clothing. But as I got older, I realised he doesn't He doesn't mean that. He's talking about don't get attached, don't get anxious. That's what he starts with saying. Therefore, I tell you, do not be anxious about your life. Then I have a Myrtle Fillmore quote. After you have placed your heart's desires with God, don't be anxious. There it is again. Or worried, or negative. Just busy yourself with the work I'll put divine mind, gives, and with study and prayer to develop yourself into a real companion and a real radiator of happiness and inspiration. So that's a quote from Myrtle Fillmore, who was the wife of Charles Fillmore. So I love this quote from The Matrix where Morpheus tells Neo there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path, and that really challenges me too, because I feel like I've learned a lot of this stuff as I've gotten older, but I'm still trying to live it. I've got to be honest with you. So I'm not up here saying this is what you all need to do. This is for me too. So I understand the knowledge and the path, but now I am walking it, but I'm just trying to tell you that I'm not coming from a place of judgment here. So spiritual growth. What is the lesson here? Have you changed? Have you changed since you were younger? Do you have a different perspective now that you're older? I know I have. And sometimes, I wanted to mention this too, sometimes the exuberance and enthusiasm of the youth, you know, I can find that a little misguided, maybe mispurposed, but then I also respect that because I've lost that as I've gotten older, you know what I mean? So I respect, though once again, I'm not saying that a younger perspective is better than an older perspective or an older one. I think they're all important and all informing. Okay, so now on growth. This is an Eric Butterworth quote, do not go through life, grow through life. That's very powerful and very simple, but I really love it. Don't go through life, grow through life. So now I'm kind of concluding here. What I wanted to say is our minds are fractals of the divine mind. So we're in unity with the divine Father, Mother. And I'll just touch on this thing I said earlier. So Jesus was talking about the Father and I are one, yet at the same time the Father is greater than I. Here's the quote from Philip. So what Philip says is to Jesus in John 14, 8-9. Lord, show us the Father, and that will be enough for us. Jesus answered, don't you know me, Philip? Even after I've been among you such a long time, anyone who's seen me has seen the Father. The reason there's no Apostle Stuart is because I would have been asking too many questions and getting irritated. And because this one, I couldn't get my head around this either. I would have said, Jesus, that makes no sense. How can you be equal to the Father and less than the Father at the same time? That once I understood about fractals, the simplest way to explain a fractal is they use the broken mirror. So you've got a complete mirror. If you smash it on the ground, if you pick up a shard of the mirror, it's exactly the same as the whole mirror. It's still reflective, yet it's smaller than the entire mirror. That's what a fractal is. That really helped me to understand that. So we're co-creating our reality. I wanted to bring this up briefly too. I find this fascinating. When Jesus went to his hometown, this one's really interesting. This is Mark 6, 4-5. But Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honour except in his own country, among his own relatives, and in his own house. Now he could do no mighty work there. He couldn't do anything except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and healed them. So Apostle Stuart would have said, Jesus, aren't you God? Why can't you do your thing here in the hometown? What's going on? And this leads back to a unity principle. We're co-creating. So you'll notice when Jesus was healing the sick, generally the first question he'd ask would be, do you want to be well? And presumably if someone said no, he'd move on to someone else. They had to speak out loud, yes, I want to be well. So I really see that as a reflection of a unity principle right there. Got another Eric Butterworth quote for you. Man is not in the world to set it right, but to see it rightly. So that's what I was talking about earlier about the youthful perspective. I know they want to change the world, and I honour that. I respect that. But I think at this stage, and I don't consider myself old. I guess I'm middle-aged at 56, but I'm focusing more on seeing it rightly than trying to change it. And I'm not saying one perspective is right and one perspective is wrong, but I'm just talking about the shifting consciousness I've had on this journey. So to understand this equation that I started with, okay. So the equation I started with was input equals output plus growth. It's about the truth, purpose, and ultimate unity of our collective expression and experience. So I want to thank you for listening to me today, and much love to you, my spiritual family.